The Oracle Network.
Oh, it's time to change a month anyway.
Oh my god, you're right. Aw, no, I'm gonna ruin it.
Hey guys.
Hey guys, welcome. I'm Abby.
And I'm Shauna.
And this is Anxious,
And Afraid.
the podcast.
Indeed.
Where we talk about things that make you scared.
And probably sweaty palms and all that junk.
Mm-hmm. Sweaty palms.
Like I have every day. All day, every day.
Oh, well. Is it because you're nervous all the time?
No, I have a disorder.
I know.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you wanted to share it with the people.
Oh, I'm totally open about it. It's hyperhidrosis, where I constantly sweat on my hands and feet. I'm lucky and I don't really have problems with my pits, but that's where usually people have the issue.
Yeah, man.
But man, do I go through some shoes.
Yeah. I mean, I think almost everyone in my life is, a sweaty person, so it's fine.
Yeah. That's why Chad and I work well together, because he's always sweaty.
Perfect.
Yeah. So what made you anxious or afraid?
This week. Well, we talked about it a little earlier, but I did get an MRI this week for my wrist, which if you haven't had an MRI, you have to go in this giant tube, and it can be if I was super claustrophobic, I could see how it would be terrifying.
Oh yeah. I feel like that would make me very uncomfortable.
Yeah, and you have to sit very still, and I feel like I twitch when I think about it, and so I had to not do that.
That would be difficult for like a whole 30 minutes.
Jeez,
that's long, 30 minutes.
But the tech was so nice. We had the same hair, and she was like, "I could be your mother," and I was like, "Nah." And so we were like friends, and
cute.
And she was like, "So I'm gonna put some headphones on you because it's really boring in there." And I was like, "Totally."
Nice.
She was like, "What kind of music do you want?" And I was like, "Give me some oldies." And she was like, like,
did you bond?
Yeah. And I was like, "Give me some 70s oldies." And she was like, "Do you like sappy 70s love songs?" And I was like, "Girl, yes." And then she was like, "I already have a playlist for you."
Oh my god, that's awesome.
So I listened to great love songs and did an MRI, and it wasn't that bad. It was very expensive.
Oh yeah, that sucks.
Even with insurance, because America sucks.
Yeah, thanks America.
Thank you.
Insurance is really fun.
So great.
It really helps you out, kind of, not really, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm paying for this so that I can pay
for it.
Continue. Here, everyone, have all my money.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So I get results on Tuesday. We'll see how that goes.
Okay.
Continue the saga next week.
All right. Interesting.
What about you?
Well, I mean, I guess I've already talked about it. I mean, I got nothing.
She got nothing.
I got nothing. I got sweaty palms, and that's my problem, lifelong problem.
Yeah. I mean,
they say you're supposed to grow out of it in your 30s, and now I'm 30. So I wonder if I'm eventually going to lose it.
I used to be a lot sweatier, I think, as a teenager till now.
No, I've been
less.
pretty consistent. But I've told people I don't know how to function without being clammy. Like if my hands are dry, like if they're really cold, like I don't have a grip. So it's harder to do things. So
Michael has the same problem.
Yeah, it's like a funny, weird problem to have.
Where you're like, now your superpower is like that your hands are tacky. You're like a little frog. You just stick to things.
Yeah.
Well, do we have anything else?
No, I think you have a story for us.
Oh, do I?
Are you going to torture us again?
Yes.
Why do you do this to us?
I don't know. It's the show. It's the show. It's what we promise.
It's weighing down on you.
It's what we say we'll do to make you
true.
anxious and afraid, and this will do both of those.
Cool.
So, I know my last episode was pretty harrowing for most of us. Hashtag thank you, Saul. And you would think I'd give myself a break.
I was hope so, but I guess not.
Yeah. A break from emotionally damaging cases. But You know, I'm a glutton for punishment, so
No, it's gonna be great.
Yeah,
Very
it's gonna mess you up.
fascinating.
here we go.
I'm ready for it.
And like I said, I did lose some sleep over this one.
Oh no!
Like literally couldn't sleep just thinking about it. It was
Okay, warning.
spiraling. So if you lose any sleep over this, I'm sorry and you're welcome.
Take some melatonin.
That's what we're here for. Okay, so today's traumatizing story will be on the sinking of the USS Indianapolis during World War II in 1945, which would come to be known as the worst naval disaster at sea in U.S. history.
Oh, I'm ready to hear all of this.
Oh, girl.
Oh no!
Oh, girl.
At the waters. Oh no!
The waters.
The terrifying.
Terrifying water.
Oh my god. Okay.
Now, I don't expect you, Shauna, to be familiar with the ship's name. Although you may recognize this story if you are a big fan of the movie Jaws, like I am.
You are.
And Michael. It's one of the things we bonded over. It's
Yeah.
our absolute
Yeah,
love
sure.
for that movie. We've seen it so many times.
Super cute.
I'll talk more about that later. So I remember during the Unsinkable Sam episode, all the details of battles on the high seas and sinking ships made me want to have a panic attack. So naturally,
You wanted to do it again?
I had to seek out one of the most horrendous stories I could find.
Love it.
And boy, did I find it.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
This is like 4 crazy stories in one. So buckle up, Buttercup.
Oh, okay. Wow.
It's about to
layered.
get wild.
Okay.
Oh, and in terms of a Borf short rating,
All right. Here we go.
I would give this story a solid 4 out of 5.
Okay.
With a couple of 5 moments sprinkled in there.
All right.
It's going to be intense.
Okay.
So as always, let me share with you my main source, my main source material for today, which is a book I read called In Harm's Way, The Sinking of the USS Indianapolis and the Extraordinary Story of Its Survivors by Doug Stanton. It's a fantastic read. It was super well written, and I definitely recommend it if you need more nightmare fuel than what I'm going to give you today.
Right. I'm sure it has more details.
It is. It's very detailed, and it's told in a way where you feel like you're reading fiction instead of nonfiction.
Oh.
So it was good. Okay. So our story. Oh, and also, by the way, Roscoe is with us today. So if you hear any weird random noises, it's probably him.
It's the boy.
He moves around a lot. Okay. Our story starts July 15th, 1945, near beautiful San Francisco, California.
Oh.
The attack on Pearl Harbor has already happened back in 1941, and the U.S. is at war with Japan.
Okay.
So that's all I'm going to really say about the complex goings-on of World War II up to this point. There's just too much to talk about, and we ain't got all day. So I hope you paid attention in history class. But before I get too ahead of myself, let me introduce you to our tragic heroine in this tale, the USS Indianapolis, less formally known as the Indy. She was a big gal who meant business. She was simply enormous. She measured at 610 feet 3 inches, which is about 186 meters long, about the size of 2 football fields.
Dang.
And displaced 9,950 tons of water.
Oh.
But just because she was thick didn't mean she was slow. The Indy could reach speeds of up to 32 knots, which is roughly 36 miles per hour. Just to give you a little perspective, the Queen of Our Hearts, the Titanic, could reach speeds of up to 23 knots, or about 26 miles per hour.
Okay.
So she's faster than the Titanic.
Wow.
And much bigger.
Okay.
So the Indy could move, but there was one big drawback to being that fast. In order to move that quickly and be that big, the Indy had to sacrifice some armor to lose some weight. The large, heavy cruiser was protected midships with only 3 to 4 inches thick of steel, whereas battleships at the time were closer to 13 inches thick. So, like we say, you always gotta make it thick.
You always got to make it thick, so it's not very thick.
It's not very thick.
Okay.
You gotta make it thick for the sea. You gotta make it thick for
Space.
For space.
Always thick.
How thick was this? I can't remember how thick we said the space material was, but it was alarmingly unthick
Yeah, it was.
for a spatial.
Especially for space.
What was that? Was the Columbia episode?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go listen to that one. That's also terrifying.
It is.
Okay, so the Indy's main job was to attack enemy emplacements on land and to gun down enemy aircraft with her big ass guns. The ship carried a main battery of 9 8-inch guns and 8 5-inch anti-aircraft guns. These guns are huge. They look like cannons, basically.
Okay.
And it's kind of hard to imagine the scale until you see a photo, which I'll show you later.
Okay.
Very impressive. So the Indy held let's see. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. The Indy held so many crew members that it was kind of like its own floating city. It had its own bakery, butcher, dentist office, photo lab, laundry room, tailor, water plant, and even had an ice cream stand.
Oh, you gotta have the ice cream.
And the boys apparently loved ice cream. I think they said they went through 25 gallons a week.
Hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
I mean, if you have to go to war,
Might
you better
as well.
just give me a bunch of ice cream.
Exactly.
At least.
The leastest.
The Indy was commissioned in 1932, and in 1943, Roosevelt made her his ship of state. He apparently liked to ride around on it while smoking a fat cigar.
Classic man.
Just on a giant boat, smoking a fat cigar, just looking at all of your land.
Oh, gosh.
After the war began, the Indianapolis participated in the bombardment of the Japanese island of Iwo Jima, and then 1 month later was damaged by a Japanese kamikaze plane off the coast of Okinawa. A kamikaze plane is basically a suicide bomber, if you weren't aware of that.
Okay.
And some of Michael's ancestors are actually from Okinawa, so that just added another terrible layer of complicated feelings into the story.
It's a little bit closer to home.
Yeah. War is so terrible and terrifying.
It is. It's awful.
Anyway, so after Okinawa, the Indy was sent back to the States for repairs and was docked in Mare Island, which is 30 miles north of San Francisco, which brings us back to the start of our story.
Okay.
July 15th, 1945. The 46-year-old captain of the USS Indianapolis was Charles Butler McVeigh III.
Good name.
What a name, right?
Good, strong name.
That's a strong name. 46, though. That seems seems young. I don't know. It's for a boat that big.
You're not old enough to.
I want
the boat ratio.
The most experience. He must have a beard.
Yeah, no baby faces.
Okay, so Charles Butler McVeigh III. And he had just been given orders to take his ship to Hunters Point Navy Yard, which was located just outside of San Francisco Bay. Once there, he would be picking up a secret project, which he was given no details on, and then delivering the secret cargo to the U.S. base on Tinian, one of the Mariana Islands in the Western Pacific. He was ordered to deliver the cargo as quickly as possible, and if anything were to happen to the ship, the secret cargo must be unloaded from the ship and put onto a boat before anything else was done.
Okay.
Uber important.
Oh my gosh.
The cargo would also be guarded by a detachment of 39 Marines who also knew nothing about what they were guarding.
Weird. I want to know immediately what's in there.
Right? Top secret. Let me peek through the cracks.
What could it possibly be?
Do a scratch and sniff test? What's in there?
Shake it around if you can.
Shake it. You won't say that when you find out what's in there.
Oh.
The captain was concerned about the sudden orders as the ship's repairs were expected to take several more weeks. But orders were orders, and the repairs were quickly wrapped up, and 1,196 telegrams were sent to all of the sailors to report for duty.
Okay.
250 of the sailors were fresh out of training and had never sailed on a ship before.
Oh, no.
These were called green hands, and they were razzed pretty good by the veteran sailors. The average age of the boys on board was just 19 years old.
Okay.
Babies. Some of them were even younger than 18, having their parents sign off so that they could enlist.
Oh, no.
They were talking about some as young as 17.
No.
Like little babies.
Oh, my gosh.
I also found out that many of them couldn't even fucking swim, and the Navy didn't teach them how.
What? That's the number one thing.
Right.
You would make sure that they knew how to do,
They're
right?
like farm boys, like from Midwest, and like
They don't see water.
I'm sure they have a lake or something, but they're talking about these like farm boys that had just never swam before. They had no idea how to swim.
Oh my God.
And they're just like sent out into the middle of the ocean.
250 of them?
Well, not all of them couldn't swim, but there was some that couldn't swim.
Oh my gosh.
Which is just so crazy to me. Okay, so Captain McVeigh was concerned as he only had a couple days to train the new recruits and run drills with them, but hoped he would be able to get more training done with them at sea. So the crew departs and sails to Hunter's Point, where the extra secret cargo, which consisted of a 5x5 by 15 foot wooden crate, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
And a very heavy black metal canister. Both of these were loaded onto the Indy's port hangar. The morning of July 16th, the Indy began to make her way out of the San Francisco harbor, but at 6:30 a.m. was ordered to halt suddenly and wait. Soon, Captain McVeigh was delivered an urgent message and gathered his officers, telling them, quote, "Gentlemen, our mission is secret. I cannot tell you the mission, but every hour we save will shorten the war by that much." Damn.
Okay, drama. Okay.
Right? Make a movie. Oh, wait, there is a movie. It has Nick Cage in it. Don't watch it. I haven't seen it, but probably bad.
Oh, Nick Cage.
It got bad reviews, so I didn't watch it.
Oh, man.
I love him. Okay. So, what the men aboard the Indy, including the captain, didn't know was that their ship had been stopped to await the results of a top secret test being conducted out in the deserts of New Mexico.
Okay.
The test would come to be known as the Trinity test, and it was the first explosion of a nuclear device in the history of the world.
Oh my gosh. The first one?
Mm-hmm. The Trinity test.
Oh no, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, because like, I guess we're like normalized to it now, but back then that's just like
The very first one.
that's terrifying. Whoa.
I just can't even, my brain can't.
That's hard to wrap around. Yeah.
Yeah. And the USS Indianapolis was waiting for the go-ahead as their departure depended on the success of this test for one very terrifying reason. The Indy's secret cargo contained integral components for the atom bomb named Little Boy.
No.
And also contained about half of the United States supply of uranium.
No, that's bad stuff all mixed together.
That's why you don't want to shake that box.
I understand now. No. So this is like...
I guess I'd probably be glad that they didn't tell me.
Oh, yeah. I'd rather not know.
Although they probably don't know. They wouldn't even know what that is. Or what I don't know.
Wait, so like... This is like a suicide mission or something?
No, like they're... Well, I'll get into it.
Okay,
so
tell me
they have the components on their ship.
Okay, that's awful.
After the Trinity test was deemed a success, the Indy was given orders to continue ahead on their mission, leaving San Francisco in friendly waters. The journey to Tinian turned out to be largely uneventful, except for the fact they were hauling ass the whole time. They actually made the trip at record speed and arrived after 7 days on July 26th.
Okay.
The secret cargo was unloaded, and within 6 hours, Captain McVeigh was given new orders to sail to Guam and then on to Leyte, where he would finally be able to train his sailors and join the Pacific Fleet, who were preparing for the invasion of Japan.
Okay.
So they still don't know what they had. They just had this crazy box, and then they said, "Here you go," and it went off their ship. Go bye-bye, and now they're continuing on.
Go bye-bye.
They had no idea they were carrying an atom bomb, basically.
Wow.
So crazy.
That seems so wrong. Okay.
Like, already, that's just crazy by itself.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay. So the Indy begins her journey to Guam, and coded messages are sent out to various commands informing them of the Indy's new schedule. But due to decoding errors, Roscoe.
He wants attention.
Did everyone hear that? He's such a whiny little baby.
Take a nap, boy.
Okay, but due to decoding errors, the command in Leyte was not informed of the Indy's impending arrival. This is just one of the many clerical errors that lead to disaster.
Oh my gosh.
It's infuriating.
Well, kind of like the Titanic too. It was just like one human mistake after another, and it was just like painful. Like so many happened,
and some of these are just like clerical errors where it's like
so avoidable.
God, yeah. Ugh. Okay, so the trip to Guam goes fine, and they arrive safe and sound on July 27th. After arriving in Guam, Captain McVeigh attended a meeting detailing his 1,300-mile trip to Leyte, due to arrive on July 31st. And during that meeting, the captain requested an escort destroyer to accompany the Indy to her destination, as was customary during travel through dangerous waters. The Indy was not equipped with sonar, so she wasn't able to detect enemy subs, which is why a destroyer usually went with them, kind of acting as their
like
bodyguard.
Yeah, guardianship.
Bodyguard of the sea. Okay, are you ready for an unfun fact?
Okay.
Destroyers would defeat submarines by bombing them with 55-gallon drums full of highly explosive gel. Gel. Yes, because it's underwater.
Oh.
The bombs were usually not accurate enough to hit the sub, but would explode close enough to them that it would surround the sub in clouds of sonic concussions, which shook the submarine until it sank.
Oh my god.
What kind of terrifying shit is that? Who thinks of this shit?
Wow, that is the worst of deaths.
Right?
Oh my god.
I can't.
Oh no. Okay.
You just got shaken? You just go down
You
from...
just and it
in
fills
a metal
with water?
tube?
Does it fill with water?
No, I think it would probably get crushed under the pressure.
Oh.
Which is also awful.
Oh, but I can't even handle it. I can't. Obviously, I can't.
I know. We will both be hyperventilating through this whole thing.
Yeah, I'm already like out of breath.
Yep. Like, I have to read.
Okay, I have to breathe. Okay.
Okay. All right. Unfun fact. There's your first one.
Awful death. Oh.
Yep. Terrible.
Oh.
All right. So anyway, the captain's request for an escort was denied, and he was told the route he was taking shouldn't require one, since they were in like kind of the backwater area of the war. They weren't like totally on the front lines. They're like, there's not a lot of activity going on back here. You'll probably be fine.
It's the back roads of the sea.
Yes. It's the back roads of the sea. And this wouldn't be the first time Captain McVeigh had sailed without an escort, and he also thought it would be fine. But what he didn't know was that there was a classified report showing Japanese subs in the area only days before. But again, due to assumptions and errors, the captain was not informed of this information.
Strike two.
Yeah. He was ordered to proceed in a zigzagging pattern unless visibility, which that's a thing. When people say zigzag, it's because it was a real thing.
I mean, isn't that the case if you're like running away from a shooter to like kind of zigzag?
Zigzag. Yeah, or maybe if you're a gazelle, do they zigzag? We should check it out. See if it works in nature. So yeah, he was told to proceed in a zigzagging pattern unless visibility was poor, and then it was at his discretion if he wanted to zigzag. Apparently, this method used to dodge enemy attacks was actually deemed inconsequential in its effectiveness, but the Navy insisted on using it anyway.
Especially with a ship, like, it can't zigzag very fast.
No, it's a rather slow zigzag.
You can't turn ships very fast.
Like, if a missile's coming at you, I feel like one slow turn the other direction isn't going to save you.
Yeah.
In a huge ship.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so they're like, it's not really a thing, but the Navy's like, do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
It makes us feel better. So the Indianapolis refuels and sets off on her voyage to Leyte on July 28th. And that day and the following day, which was a Sunday, went smoothly. The book talks about the atmosphere and activities on board the ship when there's no danger. And it makes you realize like how young all of these guys are. They were just like a bunch of kids, and they play games and they watch movies and like laugh with each other when their duties were finished. And the book even mentions how a few of the boys learned how to crochet pillowcases.
Precious.
One of the most precious things I've ever heard.
Oh my god.
learned to crochet.
So cute.
Okay. Sunday evening, the boys ate the best meal of the week, which was a chicken dinner with strawberry shortcake for dessert.
Yes. My favorite ice cream bar.
That sounds... Oh, strawberry shortcake ice cream bars are the shit.
Oh my God, my favorite. Oh my gosh, when I was in California and the ice cream truck guy came every day, my parents were dumb and gave me ice cream every day. And I would always ask for the strawberry shortcake bar. And I even annoyed the ice cream man. And he's like, don't you want to try something else? And I'm like, no.
It's like, what's wrong with you?
I just want another strawberry shortcake bar.
I loved those so much. And this is why we're soulmates.
They're my ultimate weakness.
Do you remember the Schwann's truck?
Oh.
Schwann's. They're kind of like an ice cream truck, but they sold other stuff too. And they would roam around neighborhoods with their refrigerated truck. And once I saved up my allowance in grade school, and I bought a whole box of the strawberry shortcake bars.
That's awesome.
And I put them in the freezer, and I ate them one by one in front of my sisters.
Yes, bitch.
I don't think I shared any of them.
That's hilarious. Wow, siblings, man.
Siblings.
Oh, that's so good.
So terrible. Anyway. All right, good moment of levity.
We had good strawberry shortcake stories.
Yeah. God. All right, so they eat their little strawberry shortcake for dessert. And then a little later on in the evening, the Indy passed over the deepest waters on the planet.
Ooh, scary.
Called the Challenger Deep, which gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah.
Apparently, you could place Mount Everest there, and the tippy top would still be a mile underwater.
Ew.
I wrote ew.
No.
Nasty.
Isn't the deepest part like the something trench?
Mariana Trench?
Yeah. I thought that was the deepest part of one of the oceans or something.
Challenger Deep. It's challenging you?
Ooh,
That's what it says in the Mariana Trench. Challenger Deep.
Yeah, no, we haven't explored the ocean at all.
It's terrifying down there.
That's bad, I'm sure. It's terrifying thing.
So scary down there. And also fascinating. I'm so fascinated by
It's
it.
a part of the Mariana Trench,
Oh, wow.
Both right.
the deepest known point.
We're so smart.
There we go. So they do say that to each other.
Yeah.
Challenger Deep. All right. Okay, so as darkness fell, the seas became rough and the clouds rolled in, obscuring the thin sliver of moon that night.
Oh, now we got Sin interrupting. Because
Okay, let's take a break so I can take all our pets back to the shelter.
We have to return all of our animals.
That's it.
I'm just going to see if they're going to hold them for like an hour and a half, and then I'll come back for them, but like this is not working.
It's just so bad today.
Jesus. It's just so loud.
All right. Back. Here we are.
Times two.
So, as the darkness fell, the seas became rough, the clouds rolled in, and then there was just a little sliver of moon that night, crescent moon, and it made visibility so poor that the sailors had to identify themselves by name to each other.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Very, very dark. Can't see. Because of this, the captain ceased the zigzagging pattern around 8 p.m. Despite the cloud cover and rough seas, it was still sweltering hot at night, and as many as 300 men were sleeping on the deck of the ship to escape the suffocating heat below decks, which, I mean, it bakes during the day, and then at night, below deck, it could be anywhere from 90 to 130 degrees.
Absolutely not.
No. And the worst temperatures, of course, being in the boiler room. Just the worst job ever.
Ew.
I would never want to do that job.
There's no amount of water that you could keep drinking.
I mean, do people volunteer for that job or do they get picked? Because I can't imagine anyone wanting to do it. Like, please place me into like a blazing inferno. That's my job.
Ew, that sucks so hard.
So, at around 11 p.m., Captain McVeigh turned in for the night, and he stripped completely naked before going to sleep in his private quarters. Which you can't really blame him.
No, not if it's that hot.
Right? But perhaps McVeigh wouldn't have gone commando that night if he had known about the Japanese submarine located only 12 miles away from them.
Okay.
Did your butt just clenched a little?
I mean, it's about to.
It's good instincts. 36-year-old Lieutenant Commander, I don't want to mess up this name, Mochisura Hashimoto.
Okay.
I think is how you say it.
Sounds good.
Was in charge of the I-58 submarine, which measured 356 feet long and was coated in a rubber girdle that distorted its echo patterns, causing enemies to mistake the sub for a submerged whale.
Oh, sneaky sneak.
Isn't that funny?
I'm just a whale.
That's such a good idea.
That is true.
They just made themselves look like a giant whale.
Sneak.
They're like, here we are. We're inside of a whale. So cute.
I wonder if they made whale noises too.
They have little speakers. That's our whale. Okay. So during his 4 years at sea, Commander Hashimoto had still not taken down an enemy ship, and he could feel the war coming to an end. He was itching for a victory, and today was his lucky day.
Oh no.
As his men ran their regular drills at 11 p.m., Hashimoto was alerted to the presence of an enemy ship and ordered his men to their battle stations.
Oh my goodness.
Including the Chiton pilots. Are you ready for another unfun fact?
Okay.
Chitons were kamikaze-like torpedoes that were piloted by volunteer crewmen who viewed the sacrifice of their lives as a great honor.
No.
They would climb into the 48-foot metal tube and sit in a canvas chair in front of a steering wheel with a radio, a Swiss clock, and a compass to help them guide them to their target. These men would be fired from the sub, and the torpedoes could reach a speed up to 20 knots with a range of 27 miles. The torpedo was armed with a magnetic warhead that would explode within 25 feet of any metal hull. But that was only if they reached their target. It was extremely difficult for the pilots to stay on course, and if they missed the target, they would eventually run out of fuel and then drift to the bottom of the sea, where they were fatally crushed by the immense pressure, which is pretty high up there on my worst fears list.
Okay, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. My butt is fully clenched.
It's all the way clenched.
That is the worst. What? Why have the option of dying in a torpedo thing if you can just shoot the torpedo and then you just die a horrible death?
I guess these ones can be kind of steered, I guess, so it's a little, I don't know, man.
That sounds so sad.
That's one of the things that kept me up at night, just thinking about that.
Oh no. Okay, this is the worst underwater deaths, ever.
I know.
You really went there, Abby. You really went there.
I didn't know I was going there until I got there, and then I was like, why am I here? Why did I do this to myself?
Why are we here? Why are we doing this? Okay, wow, that was difficult.
That's a very unfun fact.
Oh my god, I can't even deal. Okay.
All right. Anyway.
Oh my god.
The Japanese sub eyes the Indy with their periscope and creeps up on them, heading broadside to the Indy. The Chiton pilots were told to stand down, as the likelihood of their unmanned torpedoes hitting the giant cruiser was pretty high. So, luckily, we're not going to be using that option here, because they're so close to the Indy that they're like, you don't have to die. That would be pointless.
Oh my god.
So, averted that crisis. But Commander Hashimoto viewed the Indy through his periscope and gave the order to fire at 12:04 a.m. 6 torpedoes were fired in 3-second intervals, all individually containing enough explosives to level an entire city block.
Ooh.
Within less than a minute, 2 of the torpedoes found their mark. The first hitting the forward starboard of the ship, or of the right side of the front of the ship. The explosion sent an estimated 65 feet of the bow skyward, decimating the front of the ship, and the men, who weren't instantly blown apart, were thrown 15 feet into the air.
Because they were sleeping on the deck?
Yeah.
Okay.
The torpedo had also struck a gas tank, because of course, containing 3,500 gallons of high-octane aviation fuel, which turned the steel around it red hot and sent blazing fires throughout the ship, severely burning and killing a large number of sailors.
Ew, if it's not water or an explosion, it's fire.
I know, you're like, I thought I wasn't going to die this way in the middle of the ocean.
And it's always at, like, peak at night.
In the dark, like, so dark.
Just making it so much worse.
I know. The second explosion was even bigger than the first, striking the starboard side towards the middle of the ship. The force of the explosions was so violent that it actually lifted the massive ship out of the water and pushed it to the left, setting the Indy on a new course.
Whoa.
Damn.
To move something that big and massive and heavy,
Right.
and making it look like something not big and massive and heavy,
Right.
sounds terrifying.
It's the scale of things.
It's hard to imagine.
Oh, I did watch a little bit, like one kind of video or like illustration of, of course I had to watch that. What?
Like how it sank and stuff?
Yeah.
You should post that in the group or something, or send it to me at least.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Morbidly, I want the visual.
I know. You're like, I hate this. I love this. I hate it.
It's like the plane crashes too. I have to watch it.
I know. You just this morbid
I
fascination.
mean, at least it's animation, so it's like a little bit more distant.
A little
but-
more removed, but then you're still just like, that actually happened. That
Oh
happened.
gosh, yeah.
So god awful.
Terrible.
Ugh. Okay. With at least one of her engines still functioning, she began plowing through the water at 17 knots. With her bow blown off, she began guzzling the seawater by the ton, and the incoming flood started punching through the bulkheads, heading towards the back of the ship.
Oh my god.
So, like, the front of the ship is just sheared off,
Yeah.
and she's still moving forward. So, like,
Yeah.
all of the sea is
force.
just rushing in.
Oh my gosh.
The massive hole in the side of the ship was now leaking out thousands of gallons of fuel, sorry nature, as well as furniture, personal effects, and sadly, sailors.
Eerie. Oh gosh.
Within the first few minutes of the attack, already more than 300 boys had died.
Wait, and how many were on there total? Did we know?
About 1,200.
1,200 and 300 boys who were already dead. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Okay.
The
Within seconds.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, within seconds.
It's a lot. The explosions had knocked out the Indy's communications. None of the phones worked, and there was no way to quickly get word to the men controlling the engines to make them turn them off to slow the intake of the water.
Oh my god, everything's so awful.
I know. It's just one thing after fucking another. Captain McVeigh, poor Captain McVeigh, had been tossed out of bed when the explosion hit and quickly ran outside of his room to assess the situation. Still naked as the day he was born. He was outside, or once outside, he found utter chaos. Visibility was still very poor, and the only source of light came from the inferno blazing on the ship. But he could hear the countless screams of injured sailors.
Oh my god, I can't even imagine.
Like describing a hellscape.
Yeah, like you're forced out of bed, you're naked, you go into the hall or whatever, and then you just fucking see literal hell.
Yeah, it's just hell.
And just okay.
The next part is going to be bad, and I'm just telling you right now.
All right. Okay.
He saw many of his sailors burnt and disfigured, including gunnery officer Stanley Lipsky, who, prepare yourself, had his hands burned so badly his tendons were showing, and his eyes were 2 blackened holes.
Oh no.
And this tough son of a bitch
Stop.
still felt his way to the bridge by memory in order to report for duty.
Yes. He's burnt with his hands, yet he's feeling his way
Yes.
through because his eyeballs vanished.
gone.
They also incinerated, which is disgusting.
Yeah.
You're rocking my socks. This is too much, Abby. I can't. And then to see that? You're watching a burned human with no eyes.
He just woke up.
Still walking?
This is what he woke up to. Walks outside.
1 second you're sleeping, 1 second you're in hell watching it. Oh my God, I can't.
It's just so intense.
That is beyond brutal.
I can't.
There's no words.
No words. It's
Oh,
one of the worst things I've ever read. Like,
oh my gosh. Oh, these boys. Okay. Oh, so
I know,
sad.
Marie.
I'm so sad for you. Okay. I'm so sorry.
Okay. McVeigh quickly got dressed and ordered a distress signal be sent out. He asked for a damage report and couldn't believe what he was hearing. How had it all gone to shit so quickly?
Within seconds.
Seriously, at that moment, many of the sailors weren't even sure if the attack had come from the air or the sea. Like, it's just confusion. They don't even know, like, where it's coming from.
Yeah, it's just an explosion in all directions.
Yeah, they're like, are we supposed to be manning guns? Like, what are we supposed to be doing right now?
Terrifying.
They're untrained, a lot of them, so that's another thing.
Oh, sad.
Okay. So the ship was now listing hard to the right and began pointing its nose towards the bottom of the ocean floor as it slowly pushed on, taking in more and more water. Captain McVeigh was faced with the decision every captain dreads. He was going to have to give orders to abandon ship. Only 8 minutes had passed since the torpedo struck the ship.
Whoa.
8 minutes.
That's fast ass sinking.
8 minutes. I think it took longer to get our Jack in the Box order today.
Yeah.
This took a while.
How do you run that fast? You don't.
You do. The ship is so big.
It's so fucking big.
You probably can't even run the length in 8 minutes, I wouldn't think.
Oh, I'm never going on a ship.
No.
I don't think I'm ever going to go on a ship.
Kind of want to go on a cruise, but
nope.
Maybe not now. All right. With the communications channels down, including the intercom, word of mouth was the only way to spread the news in an already chaotic environment full of terrified new recruits with little training. Boys started jumping off the ship in droves, screaming as they plummeted 80 feet to the water. Most had life jackets, but some didn't. Many of them were only partially clothed, having been asleep when the attack began.
Right.
And some jumped into the water completely naked.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine? Many of the lifeboats and rafts had been damaged during the attack, and the chaos of the sinking prevented many of the intact ones from being cut down and lowered into the water. The ship was just sinking too fast.
Yeah, there's no time for that.
Out of the 35 life rafts on board, only 12 made it off, and many of those were missing most of the regular provisions, including water. Oh, and by the way, the ship is still slowly moving at this point, which is spreading out the groups of boys who are jumping off the ship.
Oh my gosh. Also, okay.
So they're not even together. Like, they're being spread out is the other part of it.
Okay.
As the tilt of the ship to the right became more pronounced, some boys had to climb an almost vertical surface to get to the side where they could jump. Boys on the other side could basically walk into the water, and some did so without even getting their hair wet. How crazy is that?
Okay. Yeah, this is wild.
That blew my mind. Just kind of step off the rail, and now I'm in the water.
Just like that.
So delicately. The boys who entered from this side had a higher chance at survival, as all of the life-saving gear would be tipping into the ocean from the deck from that side. So if they entered on the other side, there's not going to be supplies.
This is also why, like, shipwrecks are extra terrifying, because you're on an object that is going to be going in angles that are unnatural while it's sinking. So it's like...
It's just tipping every which way.
Yeah. It's like... It's just...
I always immediately think of the Titanic. And like, everyone's sliding down the deck.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, that's what I'm always comparing it to.
I have other comparisons coming up.
Right. It's very similar. But yeah, like, it's just not even... It's just, like, that's also an added element of, like, you're sliding or you're climbing, or it's just, like, your world that you're in is just turning upside down.
Tilting.
Terrifying.
It just... The most of panic attacks the story gave me. I just can't. Okay. But sadly, All who entered the water were instantly covered in black, sticky fuel that was still bleeding out of the sinking ship.
Oh my God.
The fuel got in the sailors' noses, eyes, ears, mouths. It burned and blinded them, and if they accidentally swallowed some, they began vomiting profusely.
Oh God, it's just another added level.
And it's like, it's sticky. It's like when you see the little baby ducks in the oil, like it's stuck to their face and their eyelashes and like their hair.
Oh my gosh, it's awful. Like, just, it's not bad enough with all the other 12 million things happening.
Let's add some fuel to your face.
It's more, just more.
And it's acidic. It like burns your skin.
Yeah, and they're already burning, some of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just.
And they have injuries in salt water now.
Oh my God, the pain and the cold, right? It's cold.
Well, they're close to the equator, so it's not
ice cold.
It's not ice cold because it gets pretty hot during the day.
Got you.
But it's
They're bleeding.
But the heat.
Sharks.
Girl.
Oh, I can't believe I just put those two together and I'm so upset. Why did you do this to me?
Oh no. It's gonna be so bad.
I just realized we were going.
Oh no. Oh no.
I'm so uncomfortable. I'm actually crying.
She's crying. She's making me cry. Now my eyes are watering.
Oh my God, I can't.
I'm confused.
We have a lot of emotions.
There's just so many bad things happening.
For sure.
Do you need a moment?
Just continue. I'm just terrified. Okay. Oh wow, I actually am crying. Okay.
You made my eyes water. I think from laughing or confusion. I'm not sure. My
All
body's
of it.
just
all
felt
of the
bad.
above.
Okay.
It's just
Michael's like, I'm so uncomfortable.
you don't know what's happening, but you know what's happening.
Oh, and the story?
Like, have you heard of this story before?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good Jocelyn.
I love Jaws so much.
Yeah, he's aware of the horrors we're about to face.
This part is actually the best monologue in Jaws. This is the part.
Yeah, Michael knows the whole thing.
Wow.
No, I don't.
He knows the best part.
I only watched it once, and that was like forever.
Oh, I love that movie so much.
No, maybe not even all of it, just like the main bits.
Maybe scared to take a bath, but I still loved it.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Wow, here we go.
Okay. Where even was I?
I don't know.
Before our panic attack and cry fest.
That was a really quick little mini freak out for me. Okay.
Sorry, we had to have a live panic attack
That was a live panic
so
coming
that
to
you could see it's real.
coming to you live.
Jesus.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh God. Okay.
You ready for this next sentence?
So there's humans in the water with blood and gas all over, which the imagery is terrifying.
Yep.
All right, here we go.
Are you ready for one of the
I'm looking at
for one of the
ceiling.
stories that kept me up at night?
Oh my God. Yes, just say it.
Oh God.
Okay.
You should breathe because this one's gonna give you another panic attack.
Oh my God, here we go.
Oh.
In for a ride.
All right. So there were, of course, poor unfortunate boys below decks when the explosion happened. And one of the Marines on board, named McCoy, was on guard duty in the brig when the torpedoes hit. The men down there were thrown 15 feet, and several of them were knocked unconscious or too injured to walk. McCoy and the other able men tried to evacuate as many as they could, but you had to climb a ladder through an open hatch to get out, which was not easy to carry another person through. After a few minutes, an officer ran up to the men, announcing they would have to seal the hatch. McCoy was forced to abandon the screaming men who knew exactly what was happening to them and close the hatch.
That's the worst.
You could hear them faintly screaming after it was shut and sealed.
Awful.
And he just had to fucking walk away.
Yeah, being the person to do that, how also traumatizing on a different
so
level.
Traumatizing.
Oh my goodness.
Because it's like he
Especially
had no
on
choice.
boys.
It was like, but I guess it wouldn't have mattered in the long run. But they didn't know that.
Oh my gosh. So heartbreaking.
So hard. Worst nightmare. Okay. As the other boys abandoned the quickly sinking ship, they instinctively began swimming as far away from it as they could get, fearing the towering ship could come crashing down on them.
Yeah, that's also terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Something so
It's
big.
Just, it just keeps going, and then the propellers. And
Yeah, you're just like a little ant
in the ocean.
Yeah. As the stern or the back of the ship rose into the air, men continued to jump off, some hitting the slowly spinning propellers as they fell, just like the fucking Titanic.
It's exactly like the fucking Titanic in the movie. Oh my gosh.
That's one of the scenes that always stuck with me. I was always just like,
It was the fucking noise.
yes. It just went spinning.
The metallic hit of the propeller, and then the body starts just spinning, and then you're fucking still falling into the ocean.
And yeah, that actually happened.
Wow. Oh my gosh. It's the worst. Oh, God. Chips. Okay.
Captain McVeigh stood on the rail of his ravaged ship, looking out at the Black Sea, and contemplated going down with the ship.
Right?
Knowing he would be facing a possible court-martial and a life of guilt if he survived.
I mean, absolutely.
But a large wave made the decision for him, and he was swept overboard into the sea. When he surfaced, covered in black oil, McVeigh began swimming away from the ship and got a small distance away before he heard a swishing sound. When he turned around, his ship was gone.
Wow.
The men who did witness the final moments of the sinking recalled watching the stern rise into the sky until the ship stood completely on end and then began to slowly sink, picking up speed as it descended. 15 seconds later, and it vanished beneath the waves. The sailors could still see the light from the fires flickering through the portholes until the ship was swallowed up by the inky depths. It took 12 minutes from the time the first torpedo struck to sink the USS Indianapolis, and 5 minutes for her to reach the bottom of the ocean floor in some of the deepest waters on the planet.
That is insane.
How's about a break?
Oh my God, please.
All right. I hope we all took time to recover from our collective panic attack, because I'm about to give you another one.
Oh, great.
First, can we talk about how terrifying and disorienting it would be to be in the ocean on a night so dark you can't see your damn hand in front of your face?
Oh my God, right.
And then the ship sinks and it's just nothingness.
Like the silence.
You can't make out the horizon.
Ooh.
And if you're not alone, you're just hearing the screams and cries of injured boys around you.
Oh, so eerie and terrifying.
Horrifying.
And awful.
Okay, so it is estimated that about 900 sailors went into the water.
Ugh.
And were spread out over at least 2 miles.
Wow.
Initially, that would get a lot further as time went on.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, because the ship was just still moving. So.
Right. Crazy.
One crazy story I read about that Marine McCoy was that he went into the water too close to where the ship had sunk, and as he was trying to swim away,
the suction,
he got sucked under and dragged down with the current from the ship.
No.
He passed out, and the next thing he knew, he woke up still underwater, rocketing back towards the surface with the lower half of his body trapped inside of a massive air bubble.
What?
You can't make that shit up.
Wait, how does that work? What?
Like an air bubble from the ship was coming up from the deep, and it rose underneath of him as he was sinking, and the lower half of him got inside of the air bubble.
And that was pushing him up?
Yeah, and he just rocketed towards the surface with the air bubble.
Oh my God.
While he was being sucked under by the current of the...
what are the odds? And also a little scary, because if you get up too fast, it could be bad for your brain or something.
The bends?
Yeah.
I don't think he went down probably deep enough to get the bends.
Okay. But still.
It's like some kind of crazy cartoon moment.
You're right.
I always wondered about that. If you're underwater and there's an air bubble big enough, can you live in it?
Can you take a breath in it?
Mm-hmm.
Breath in it? Ooh,
well, apparently your butt can get trapped in it. So he erupts from the water with such a force that he shot 3 feet into the air before landing back in the water.
Holy shit.
What is life?
What is happening?
Oh, so that was one just insane story.
Yeah,
I
that
was
is
like,
wild.
gotta put that in there.
Jeez.
So many sailors unfortunately lost their lives the first night in the water as the boys without life jackets began to drown, and the ones who had been badly injured succumbed to their injuries.
Oh.
If a boy wearing a life vest perished, he would immediately be swarmed by boys without a life vest.
Oh my gosh.
The boys who wore the inflatable life belts also found themselves in peril as the acidic fuel ate at the material and caused them to deflate over time.
Oh my god.
There's just no winning ever. As the night wore on, many of the sailors began to gravitate into groups called together by the highest ranking officials or individuals in the area. Mm-hmm. The largest group of about 400 was led by the ship's doctor, Dr. Haynes, a Captain Parks, and the ship's priest, Father Conway. This group, sadly, had the least amount of supplies and life-saving materials. The boys in this group were instructed to form a chain by wrapping their legs around the boy in front of them and leaning back against the chest of the boy behind them so that they all could stay together and not drown.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of a good idea.
Yeah.
And they formed a giant ring, and a ring of 400 boys. Like, that must have been huge ring. And in the center was the doctor and like the priest, and they tirelessly tended to the wounded, and the poor boys. They're just like vomiting really bad too because of the oil.
Yeah.
It's just, there's the water is just
Such a long and painful and dragged out fucking death.
so terrible. The second largest group of about 325 men had gotten much luckier. They had 5 floater nets, which were giant nets with buoys around the perimeter to keep you floating. And these could hold about 50 men, so big nets. Although when full to capacity, they were pretty miserable to be inside of. Like, if you're inside of it and like one individual like turns or like moves, the whole group feels it, and like then the water bucks up over your face.
Oh my gosh.
It's not good. This group also had 4 rafts and a few small portions of food and water, but like nobody really had much food and water in any of the groups. Then there were a number of smaller groups, including a small group the captain found himself in and his group had a couple of rafts and a decent amount of supplies. There was another small group led by the Marine, McCoy, Air Bubble Boy, and some men drifted all alone, which is super sad.
Yeah.
All of the sailors were desperate and frightened, but they all believed within 48 hours they would be searched for and rescued after they failed to arrive in Leyte as scheduled. Mm-hmm. They also knew that a distress signal had been sent before all the communication was lost.
Okay, that's good.
They know they at least got one out.
All right.
But what they didn't know was that the distress signal, which actually did make it to 3 bases, was basically disregarded for one reason or another. No secondary distress signal ever made it out, or any indication the ship was sinking, so it was thought to be a prank, which apparently did happen from time to time.
What a stupid prank. What a shitty thing. What a stupid
Well, I think
shitty thing.
the other side, like the Japanese would do it to like waste resources or whatever, so you would respond to this call but I mean, the other ones, like one guy was like drinking and another guy was it was just like reasons that were so infuriating and like lazy, and like I think somebody did start to send out rescue boats, and then the guy was like, no, what are you doing? Like, they didn't send another call, like, and they brought them back.
Oh my gosh, infuriating.
I was just like, I can't with this.
God, what's failure?
Just utter failure. It's so infuriating.
Sucky.
Okay. So the boys of the Indy also didn't know about the clerical errors, which essentially made it to where they would not be missed if they didn't show up in Leyte. In other words, nobody knew they were missing and nobody was looking for them.
Annoying.
In the middle of the goddamn ocean. When dawn broke over the horizon, the light was comforting, but the heat it brought was not.
Oh my god.
During the day, the temperatures went as high as 100 degrees Fahrenheit, or 38 degrees Celsius, and all of the boys began to bake.
Yeah, like now you're getting sunburn and now you're cooking, and that's annoying.
Yep.
And painful.
Yep.
Jesus.
When the seas were calm, the sun reflected off the water so brightly that the boys all began to suffer from photophobia. Their corneas became red, swollen, and inflamed.
I've definitely had cherry face before because I didn't put sunscreen on my face.
Yeah, can you imagine that on your eyes?
And freaking sun.
Like sunburn your eyeballs?
Ew.
They said it was just like closing their eyes over sandpaper, or like their lids over sandpaper. Everything's terrible. The doctor had the good sense to tell his group to tear off a piece of their clothes if they had any and make it into a blindfold to protect their eyes. He implored them all never to drink the seawater.
Right.
And to keep it out of their mouths at all costs, which is super hard when you're just bobbing around in the ocean.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be like waves and they just hit you in the face, you know?
Yeah, totally.
The salt water itself was acidic enough to cause painful raw lesions and burns on the sailor's skin.
Jesus.
At some point on the first day, the sailors drifted out of the oil slick and were able to see the crystal clear sea below them, which was mesmerizing and beautiful at first, until the man-of-war jellyfish showed up along with the barracuda.
Ooh.
But worst of all were the predators who came as the sun started to set. Hundreds of motherfucking sharks.
This is the worst. It's already so amazingly bad.
And it's gonna get so much worse.
And now it's like ultimate nightmare. Let's just go through all the ultimate nightmares.
Okay, we're talking makos, tiger sharks, white tips, and blue sharks. I mean, this shit is straight out of a horror movie.
The variety.
Sad and terrible stuff is coming. I'm warning you right now.
The terror of a bigger, stronger creature that's just gonna bite you to death.
It's like its whole deal is being in the water. It's like, you're in my house now.
It's true. I mean, you can't really be mad, but like,
look at your toes. There's no webbing between them. What are you gonna do?
Wow.
Yep. All right. Take a good breath.
Right.
They had already begun their attacks when the bleeding men hit the water, but in all the chaos, it wasn't really noticed, and they had plenty of drowned victims to feed on.
Oh, no.
But as time passed, they started going for the living.
Wow.
At first, they were picking off the stragglers, but then they started targeting the bigger groups. By Tuesday morning, there were swarms of sharks thrashing below the surface in massive groups.
Fucking feeding frenzy for them.
Yes. Can you just... Oh, the ocean is just boiling with fins.
I want to know the exact amount.
Hundreds.
Oh, Lord. Oh, my God.
There was a fascinating part. Like, sharks are, like, I guess, drawn in by, like, electromagnetic... their brains are weird. Just like ours. We have an electrical current or whatever. But that attracts them. And they said that all of the electrical currents on the ship probably attracted the sharks to begin with.
Wow.
And then all of the electrical currents through people attracted more.
And just the fact that they were like already kind of feeding off them and they didn't know it because it was too chaotic. It was,
right.
That's just also
dark.
So terrifying.
Someone just slips away behind you, just right into the water.
Oh my God.
Okay. The day was punctuated by blood-curdling screams as the men were attacked.
God, listening to it. Oh my, and witnessing it just one by one. Okay. Wow. Okay.
And these are your friends too.
Oh.
Some would be dragged through the water, trapped in the jaws of a shark, while others would disappear suddenly and silently, their shredded life vest left behind. Many sailors recalled trying to get their friends' attention, only to have them fall forward with their lower half missing.
Oh my God.
Gonna start crying it.
Holding it back.
The sharks would attack viciously in low light conditions and dusk and dawn, and then they would pick through the injured in between those times.
Fucking smart motherfuckers.
I know, they're very smart. Damn it. Apex predators. By Tuesday evening, as many as 200 more boys lost their lives from either shark attack or drowning. The priest had never stopped tending to the boys and delivering last rites, swimming endlessly until he gave in to delirium and finally passed. Many began to lose hope and began committing suicide.
I mean, honestly, I was just going to say, where's the fucking gun? I'd rather just do it.
I mean, there's no guns. Everything's wet.
I know. But, okay, so how do they... Okay.
I'll tell you.
Oh, God.
Some would simply tip forward and silently drown themselves. Others would swim out until they were attacked and killed by a shark.
Oh, my God.
And by the third day in the water, many...
Third day. Okay. Sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
It's just so long.
Many boys began consuming salt water, no longer able to cope with the thirst because they're not drinking or eating.
And you're just being cooked alive. You're getting toasty for the motherfucking sharks.
Yeah.
Getting crispy.
Yeah, you're getting cooked.
You're getting grilled.
They love it.
God.
Yes, so they began consuming salt water, no longer able to cope with the thirst that had swollen their tongues until they protruded from their mouths.
Oh, God.
Many must have known this would be fatal, but did it anyway.
Yeah.
The doctor even tried slapping and punching the boys to make them stop drinking it, but it was no use.
Oh, my God.
As the saltwater ravaged their bodies, the boys went into convulsive fits and then comas until they passed within 2 hours.
Oh, my God.
Some would hallucinate before succumbing, and in many cases tried killing their friends, thinking they were Japanese soldiers trying to kill them.
Oh, my God.
In one instance, a frenzied and crazed fight broke out amongst the biggest group, and by the time it was settled, 50 boys had been murdered.
Okay, so now, just sprinkle in some murder spree in there because
they're like hallucinating.
I mean, like, what isn't in this story? What is
There's not a lot.
I don't know.
All
how
the
you can
horror.
top this.
You can't. I didn't know that this was going to be so bad. I apologize.
You got tricked again.
I did.
Oh my goodness.
Jaws tricked me. Okay. Even the men who didn't drink salt water began hallucinating after 55 hours in the ocean without food or water. They began seeing grocery stores, hotels, whole islands overflowing with coconut milk and dancing girls. Some boarded imaginary trains and stepped into imaginary cars, only to swim away and drown. Others queued up in lines for a chance to check into a hotel that allowed 15-minute naps. They imagined eating ice cream sundaes while drinking water from the sea.
Oh my God. The brain is so fascinatingly weird.
Yep.
That is so much regular life imaginating when you're on the fucking ocean. This is crazy.
Yes. Listen to this. Another 25 boys all lined up and said they were all going to swim to Leyte together. They all swam away and they all drowned. It's just like, I feel like that's almost the most devastating because it's such an innocence and they think they're doing something and they're not.
Right. It's like extra heartbreaking because it's like their mind is playing tricks on them and they're doing just like a kind of normally odd thing, but then they just drown and die.
I think the collective hallucination is also crazy to me because like these boys are all imagining a hotel and they're all lining up for it.
And like, that is crazy that many boys would think that all at the same time. Like that raises so many other questions about the human mind. And
I mean, being under that much stress with that little nutrition in those conditions,
of course, yeah,
their brains just broke after long enough.
Wow.
Okay, so let me give you like a little kernel of hope here.
Just a kernel of it.
Let me give you a little crumb. So day 4, August 2nd. Lieutenant Chuck Gwynn is out making a routine patrol flight over the Philippine Sea looking for enemy subs in his Ventura PV-1 bomber when he starts having trouble with his antenna. So he looks out his window and happens to see an oil slick out of the corner of his eye in the ocean. He thought it may be evidence of an enemy sub nearby, so he lowered altitude and came back around for a closer look.
Oh, gosh.
At 900 feet, he squinted at the water and could make out several tiny figures splashing at the water and waving their arms.
Oh my God.
He quickly counted over 100 men and radioed back to base on Palilu that there were survivors of a downed ship out here, although he didn't know which one. This would be the first report of the Indy disaster. Gwynn had his co-pilot drop all the survival gear they had and tried gathering the scope of how many men were in the water. This was a difficult task as they had all drifted many miles since the sinking, with some groups drifting over 100 miles.
Wow. While
the survival gear was a good thought, many men actually drowned attempting to reach it. Their bodies were just too exhausted to go on as their life vests had lost most of their buoyancy at this point.
They can lose buoyancy?
Yeah, even the ones that weren't blown up, they only had, I think it said 48 hours, and then they get waterlogged.
Oh my god!
And they start to sink.
Well, that's not helpful.
I mean, they, I guess, assume that you will be rescued before that's a problem.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't know that either. Maybe they're different. They're probably different now, but back then.
And also, and being, extra weak on top of that. Just your body's toasted.
That is the saddest thing, just trying to swim. You're so close. Ugh. Oh, my God. Ugh. Okay. The ones who did make it to the raft that had been dropped found that the fresh water dropped with it had exploded on impact because, of course. Once the call from the pilot reached the right people in charge, one of the largest sea rescues in the U.S. Navy's history was finally underway.
Finally.
Fucking finally.
4 days later?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Back at the military bases, all of the higher-ups are scrambling to figure out which ship has gone down because they had no clue. And I bet all of the people who ignored warnings and assumed everything was fine were shitting their pants.
I hope so.
Deservedly so. Back to the boys of the Indy. As luck would have it, another plane was in the area and heard the call go out. Lieutenant Adrian Marks reached the scene at 3:20 and couldn't believe what he was seeing. Men with blackened faces from the fuel spread out in every direction, surrounded by hundreds of circling sharks.
Oh my god, nightmare.
And it's the water is crystal clear. So I think that's the other, I don't know what's more terrifying actually. What would be more terrifying?
Seeing it or not seeing it?
Yeah, if you're in the Atlantic where it's dark and you can't see it, or if you're...
I just definitely think if you can see it, it's worse.
Because you can see the amount of them.
The size and the fins and then
you can see them coming.
That's fucking awful.
Yeah. So he can see all of the circling sharks, and he drops all of his survival provisions as well, and radioed back to base that they needed to get there urgently. As he sent this, he watched a man get dragged under the waves by a shark and decided to attempt an open sea landing against protocol. Balls of steel on this guy. His plane was equipped to do this. It was like a seaplane, so it could land in the water, but nobody or everyone who had attempted this before him had failed miserably. So they're like, don't do it. And he's like, I'm going to do it.
So what happens if you fail?
Your ship or your plane breaks apart and you die.
Oh, shit. Okay.
If you hit too hard or if you don't land smoothly.
Oh, shit.
You know?
That's terrifying.
I mean, you're coming from the air trying to land on the ocean.
Yeah.
Which is probably a little choppy at least, I would think. Scary. Okay, so his crew agreed with him and attempted to set the plane down in the water. They succeeded, but nearly blew the seams apart, frantically plugging leaking holes as they sat atop the waves. And they're bailing water out the whole time they talked about it.
Oh my gosh.
So they're trying to stay afloat in this plane.
Oh my god.
Stop sinking.
Even the rescue people are just gonna sink. Gosh.
Yeah, they talked about how he tried to set it down, but he hit a wave at an angle and his plane flew 15 feet back up into the water.
Whoa.
It just pinged off the wave.
Damn, Mother Nature.
Yeah, and then he settled back down, but I mean, it really damaged his plane. It's never going to fly again.
Oh, fuck.
Okay. So Marks began steering the plane to the men, who seemed, closest to death, and started pulling them on board, collecting as many sailors as they could fit, even placing some of them on the wings of the plane until a ship could arrive to pick them all up. The rescuers would find as they pulled the survivors up, they found that when
Yeah, okay.
So when they pulled the survivors up, their skin
no
would give or slip. Nope. I'm sorry. After being in the water so long.
Ew.
Which made moving the boys extremely painful.
It's called skin slippage, right? Which is the grossest term ever. Oh my
It's like where it separates from your mouth.
Ew. Shut up.
Okay.
Shut your mouth, Abby. I'm over it. I can't handle it.
No more. She can't handle one more detail.
You continue forward right now.
Okay. Also, the salt water dissolved most of their body hair.
Okay, cool. Nice detail.
Yeah. I mean, that one doesn't hurt, probably.
It's still awful.
Yeah, it's awful.
That's weird.
At one point, Dr. Haynes, half dead at this point, this guy, he swam to the plane, but instead of getting in, he asked for water in a life vest. He put the vest on and took the water and swam back to his group of boys, where he evenly distributed the little water they had.
What an angel.
He's a hero.
He's the best.
The pilot was able to save 56 boys on his plane and had to wait for a ship to arrive as darkness fell. At 11:45 that evening, into the next day, ships began arriving to pick up the survivors, including a large destroyer named the USS Bassett, which picked up the largest group of survivors, 152.
Wow.
One interesting thing to note was at this point, the rescuers still didn't know who these boys were or even what ship they came from.
Jeez.
They didn't even know if they were friendly.
Or the enemy or not?
Yeah, the oil was all over them, so they couldn't see what they looked like.
Oh, damn, you're right.
And the sailors were also delirious. So half of them thought that the Japanese had come back for them, and they were trying to fight their rescuers off.
Oh my gosh. Of course.
The men aboard the Bassett called out to the men just to make sure, saying, "Hey, what city do the Dodgers play in?"
That's the code word or code.
And
question.
somebody shouted back, "Brooklyn."
Brooklyn.
And then they were all cool.
That's awesome. That's so funny.
Right? I was like, oh, it's a little Americana. A little great.
Yes.
One rescuer showed amazing bravery by jumping into shark-infested waters after 3 men fell back into the water and began to sink, too weak to climb to safety.
Oh.
This guy dives right in and emerges with all 3 of them.
Stop.
Like some kind of Popeye strongman, and he saves all 3 men. He actually dislocated his shoulder from the effort and later popped it back in himself and resumed working.
Okay, the most badass person ever?
Yeah.
That's like real life Archer. Oh my gosh.
Insane.
Just casually rescuing 3 guys in shark-infested waters.
Yeah, just like pop my arm out because you guys are heavy, but it's fine. When the rescue party finally came back to Dr. Haynes and his group, one delirious boy shouted at them, asking if they had any fresh water on board. And the rescuers replied, "Yes, lots." And the boy replied back, "'Cause if you ain't got any water, go away and leave us alone."
Like, go on, get.
Like, what a teen. Little teenager. It was after this exchange, the rescuers finally learned that these were all the survivors left of the USS Indianapolis, and that they had been in the water for 4 days. Many of the rescuers were the same age as the boys being pulled from the water and broke down in tears as the sailors, who now resembled living corpses, were brought on board.
Literally living corpses.
Many of them would go on to have deep psychological scarring after pulling disfigured bodies from the water. They had to gather them all to identify them so that they could inform the families, and it was a grisly task.
And so many.
And, they'd pull up like half of a
body.
person.
Oh, gosh.
Can you imagine? Like,
I don't
they're
want to
teenagers.
They're ruined.
They're not equipped to deal with this.
I mean, they're not ruined, but like, fuck.
The boys who had finally been rescued found themselves being gently cared for by the crew who found them. They were given fresh water and food in small amounts their bodies could handle, and they were all given baths in diesel fuel to remove the black sticky oil coating their bodies.
Wait, they had to use diesel fuel to take off the thing?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, that surprised me too, but I guess that's what... I guess it makes sense that it could remove it, but didn't think of... They didn't have any Dawn dish soap, I guess.
I know, I was going to say, where's the Dawn dish
No
soap?
Dawn yet. Many of them began to laugh and cry hysterically as they finally realized they were safe.
Oh.
On the 5th day, August 3rd, Captain McVeigh and his group were finally found and rescued. They had probably been the best supplied, and Captain McVeigh insisted on climbing the rope ladder to the ship himself. He was quickly whisked away to be fed and cleaned up, and when he was done, he was expected to give a full report on what had happened.
Ugh.
God,
Give
let him give him a fucking rest. Jesus. The USS Indianapolis began their voyage with 1,196 men. After the torpedo attack, about 900 men went into the water. By the time they were rescued from the shark-infested waters, after 4 to 5 days in the blazing sun with no food or water, only 321 remained. Even after rescue, 4 more boys would succumb to their injuries and pass, bringing the survivors down to 317. It was estimated that at least 200 men died from shark attacks, with at least 50 men dying each day.
Oh my gosh.
By August 8th, all of the survivors were reunited at the base hospital in Guam. They were overjoyed to see each other, but were kept under strict guard and were not allowed to speak with the media. The Navy was obviously trying to quickly do damage control in order to cover their asses.
Of course.
Some boys recovered fairly quickly, while others were not so lucky. In some cases, the saltwater ulcers covering the bodies of the boys who had been submerged in salt water had eaten through skin, muscle, and eventually made it all the way to the bone.
Wow. Yikes. Ugh.
Others would still have a long time to heal from broken or missing limbs and bad burns sustained in the torpedo attack. But some of the boys were pretty stoked when an admiral visited the hospital and gave all of the boys the Purple Heart medal.
Yeah.
What many of these sailors didn't know was that 2 days prior, on August 6th, the U.S. had dropped the world's first atomic bomb.
Whoa.
Little boy on Hiroshima. Or is it Hiroshima?
I think it's both.
Killing an estimated 118,000 Japanese people in a matter of seconds.
That's insanity.
An estimated 22,000 more would perish by the end of the year from the after effects of the bomb.
Oh, goodness.
At its epicenter, the temperature of the bomb exceeded 1 million degrees and caused winds of over 500 miles per hour.
Yuck. I mean, why?
I just can't even fathom that.
This is disgusting.
The men who dropped the bomb had written, quote, "This one is for the boys of the Indianapolis," on the side of it.
Oh,
no, boy. Yikes. 3 days after the second bomb, Fat Man was dropped on Nagasaki, killing 40,000 and wounding an additional 60,000.
That's crazy.
The following day, on August 10th, Japan sued for peace, effectively ending the god-awful war after almost 4 years of fighting.
Jeez.
The boys of the Indy cheered when they heard the announcement and looked forward to finally going home. Just minutes before Truman announced the end of the war, they had snuck in the bulletin about the sinking of the Indy. The family of the lost boys wept as the rest of the country celebrated. Barely anyone took notice of the small story in the news when there was a victory to celebrate, which is, they did that on purpose. I think they waited to announce it until something else was much bigger.
Yeah, makes sense.
In the aftermath, Captain McVeigh was tried by the Navy over the sinking of the USS Indianapolis. They argued that he had stopped zigzagging and had not abandoned ship quickly enough, which resulted in the loss of many lives and the sinking of the ship. The Navy conveniently left out any charges pertaining to their mistakes, which led to the men of the Indy being stranded and forgotten in the sea for days.
Oh, so convenient.
Yeah, of course. Americans following the trial of the sailors of the Indy were outraged by this miscarriage of justice. If convicted, McVeigh would be the first captain in U.S. history to be court-martialed for losing his ship as the result of an act of war. In quite the upset during the proceedings, the Navy actually called in Commander Hashimoto all the way from Japan to testify against the captain.
Whoa.
The guy in the enemy sub, they get him. Wow. And they bring... What? That's insane to me.
Insane.
Unfortunately for the Navy, though, the commander was on Captain McVeigh's side, which is another mind-blowing fact.
Wait, what did you just say? What?
The commander of the Japanese sub is called in to testify against Captain McVeigh to say, how the ship went down. And to give support of the Navy's side, which is saying he was able to defeat him because he stopped zigzagging. So that's why they call him in.
Okay.
But he's not on their side. He's actually agreeing with Captain McVeigh.
What
which
a
is
twist.
So embarrassing for them.
Oh my gosh.
So he testifies that the zigzagging technique would have made absolutely no difference in the effectiveness of his attack.
Nice.
He would have sunk them no matter what course the ship was on. So embarrassing for the Navy, but even after hearing testimony from the sailors of the Indy arguing in the captain's defense, the Navy still decided to convict him, and poor Captain McVeigh was court-martialed, ending his naval career. As for the rest of the survivors, they were all expected to go back home and get on with their lives. Of course, back then, no mental health support was offered, and many of the men found themselves drinking heavily to cope. One of the sailors, named Bob Gauss, would go on to be a commercial fisherman and would become the inspiration for Captain Quint in the movie Jaws. Dr. Haynes continued his military service as a doctor and even went on to serve in Vietnam.
Wow.
Poor man.
Okay.
Jesus. He said he still couldn't say the Lord's Prayer without crying decades later.
Oh.
The Marine, McCoy, would go on to become a chiropractor and was responsible for seeking out his fellow sailors years later to gather them all for a reunion, where after 1960, the survivors started gathering annually to talk and share stories.
Oh, good.
This, according to them, became their therapy.
Exactly.
Yeah, after bottling up all their trauma and talking to no one about it, like not even their families,
It sucks.
for years. These men could understand each other better than anyone else because no one else had gone through what they had.
Exactly.
Wikipedia says that the meetings were still going on in 2017, but by then the men they're in their 90s, and only 7 out of the 20 survivors were left.
Isn't that crazy when you're just like dying off of old
Or only,
age?
7 went to the meeting of the 20 survivors that were left. But like, but they're still going at night in their 90s.
That's so precious.
Captain McVeigh attended the first meeting and was surprised to find loving and supportive men. He thought they would all despise him,
Right.
but it was quite the opposite.
Good.
Many of these men fought hard to clear their captain's name, and finally in 2001, after years of fighting, Captain McVeigh's name was cleared of all charges, and the Navy finally recognized their wrongdoings.
Oh my gosh.
Of course, it was too little too late. After decades of guilt and hate mail from the families of the boys who had perished, McVeigh finally couldn't take it anymore and decided to end his own life in 1968 at the age of 70. He was found lying neatly outside on the stone steps of his home with a toy sailor he had taken with him around the world clutched in one hand and a revolver in the other.
Oh my gosh.
One last fact.
Okay.
The wreckage was finally discovered in 2017.
Oh, wow.
3.4 miles below the surface. And apparently the footage is on a PBS doc. And I still want to watch it because that footage is like my jam. It's the stuff I like to watch.
I would love to watch that.
We have to watch it together.
Oh my god, that'd be so amazing.
So yeah. So thank you for your service. And I'm sorry. And
Oh my god.
I wish things had gone differently. But that's the end.
Wow, what a trip. I'm exhausted.
Me too. I'm exhausted.
What a trip story.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm speechless. I'm drained.
Me too. That took a lot out of me. God. Yeah.
But fascinating.
It's very fascinating.
Terrifying.
And I feel like it's not as well known. It's not that, I don't know. Maybe it is, but
I didn't really know about this.
yeah, it should be a bigger deal.
Yeah, it sounds like the worst thing
God,
ever.
It's terrible. But
Those poor boys.
poor boys. I just like feel so awful.
Just the just
so young.
It took so long. Yeah, that's sad.
Well, maybe we should move on before we all cry.
I already did earlier. We all heard it.
We all cried together.
Okay, so quick shout out to our girl Jordan.
Jordan. You know who you are, Jordan.
Hey.
We were all in theater together.
Yes, we're all theater kids together. Noises off.
And I saw you when I went to the doctor and I was like, hey, girl. So,
which is surprising, wearing mask and all. You still like.
I still recognized her.
Yeah.
And she did me too, but it's like that awkward thing where it's like in a professional setting and you're like, should we talk or we'll just pretend not to know each other? I don't know.
Or you have that like one little like doubt of like, what if it's not her?
Yeah. I just do like a quick wink.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. But hi. Thank you for listening.
Thank you
That's
for
so
listening.
sweet.
So sweet.
I love that. Thank you.
And now on to City of the Week.
Here we go.
Shauna, who's your city of the week?
Our city of the week is Detroit, Michigan.
Detroit!
What's up?
Thanks for making me feel cool. I didn't think anyone would like me in Detroit.
Right now we feel cool.
Yeah. Thanks for making my day today.
Thank you.
I don't think I have anything else to say.
All right. So this time I won't forget, and I'll mention some of our social medias.
Okay. That's professional of you.
Yeah, we're getting our shit together a little bit. Okay, so, and Chad updated our website. So we do have our social medias on our website if you want to check it out. And that lists our Facebook and Instagram, which is Anxious and Afraid the Pod. We also have Twitter and Patreon, which is also on the website, anxiousandafraid.com. You can also check the show notes. Links everywhere. We provide them for you. Mm-hmm. So you can just click away.
Rate and subscribe.
Do that too.
Buy a merch.
There's some cute stuff.
Be a Patreon.
Give us $1, we'll give you a holler.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, I guess I'm going to wrap it up then.
Do it, girl.
Good up and good night. All right, so I read a book called In Harm's Way by Doug Stanton. I went to Wikipedia, Britannica.com, and I watched a documentary called USS Indianapolis, The Legacy. Our music is by Broke for Free and Matt Edwards, and we are edited by Michael.
Anxious and Afraid is partnered with the Oracle Network.
Hi, I'm Jules from Riddle Me That True Crime.
I'm Robin Warder from The Trail Went Cold, and Jules and I want to tell you a little bit about a case that means a great deal to us. The death of 9-month-old baby Jacob Landine on April the 10th, 1987 in Socorro, New Mexico.
The day prior to his death, on April 9th, baby Jacob was being watched by his mother Brenda's new boyfriend John, not his real name, in his mobile home on 1453 Fatima Drive. While John was babysitting Jacob, Jacob would incur what would be his second head injury in a period of weeks. The prior head injury was a subdural hematoma, or brain bleed, and it was serious enough that it needed to be lanced to take pressure off baby Jacob's brain while being monitored by doctors over the course of several days.
The circumstances surrounding how Jacob was injured and subsequently died are murky at best, with the suspect giving multiple versions of the events of the day, ranging from Jacob choking and accidentally hitting his head while trying to dislodge a cookie, to Jacob falling and John returning to see the injured infant.
The suspect also reportedly confessed to officers that he was indeed responsible, but there is no paper or audio record of this confession in the police file. The reasons given by the DA for not pursuing the case are confusing as well, with one of the reasons being that they were worried that John would file charges against the state.
It was the opinion of the doctors that baby Jacob was struck in the head and this was no accident. In the years to follow, John goes on to sexually abuse young Eric, as well as physically abusing his mother Brenda, and emotionally abusing and isolating them both, making their world very small.
During the autopsy, layers of abuse seem to be present. A healing rib fracture from around the time of the first head injury is also discovered. It's impossible to say exactly when the injury took place, but what is clear is that someone was abusing young Jacob, and that person was most likely John.
Eric Landine, Jacob's brother, has been fighting to get justice for him. However, he faces some obstacles such as the statute of limitations of 6 years on second-degree murder that State Representative Bill Ream has petitioned to have overturned.
Join Robin and I, as well as criminologist Dr. Ashley Wellman, an investigative expert, a legal expert, a forensic psychiatrist, as well as Jacob's brother Eric, as we explore all angles of this case and try to bring awareness, understanding, and hopefully, ultimately, justice for Jacob.
The series starts on March the 1st. Tune in on your favorite podcast app.